Welcome to episode number 5 of Take 47 podcast. Okay, so since I haven't covered the news in the past 2 days that I was supposed to upload, last Wednesday and last Friday, there's actually a ton of stuff to cover. So I already have my agenda full for today and tomorrow. There's a lot of things that even though they happened last week or a few days ago, they're still some of them are still in the news, and others are could cause problems in the future. A few things that I will be covering in this video are the RFK food bans, the Vance visit to India, a terrorist attack in India the day after Vance went to visit, the Trump and China with tariffs and the economy. Peace was acquired between the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Rwanda. Some new things on Trump, Zelensky, and Putin. And probably the most impactful and important one, at least to people who live in America, is the Canadian election, which happened last night, or April 28th. So, starting off with the RFK food dye bans, he is, I believe, going to propose legislation or, talk with the president and advise him to do something with the NIH, I believe, or maybe another agency, to remove the following dyes: red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, blue 1, blue 2, green 3, will all eventually be replaced out of our foods, and the proposal will also revoke the FDA's there's a few food dyes going through the FDA certification, which are red 2, orange B. But he also said that the dyes that he can't get rid of legally, he will inform the American people what they're consuming. Which kind of makes sense, because RFK, even though he's working in the Trump administration, he is still technically a Democrat, and he's also he's also an independent, but he's also somewhat of a libertarian, because he doesn't, even though he has the power to do so, he doesn't exactly want to ban. I mean, some of them he will ban, but with a good amount of things, he doesn't want to take them away from you, or prohibit companies from using them. He wants to inform you more about what you're consuming, what you're eating, the effects it may have. Okay, now to the good and bad news for India. The good news is that our vice president went to visit last week to talk with their prime minister. I'm not sure what the title for their leader is, but Modi, to talk about a new trade deal. And not only is this great for India, it's also great for the U.S., but it also counters China, because we're in a trade war with China, and the strongest place of influence for China is within the Asian continent. Of course, it has some investments and some weak, not very. And of course, it also has some minor investments in Africa, and they also have some influence in the Panama Canal, which we're trying to remove. But yeah, they talked about restructuring a trade deal or making a new one. Eventually, I believe that Trump wants to remove tariffs from India. But just me personally giving an opinion, even though we're restructuring a trade deal and trying to improve relations with countries that might rather be friends with us rather than China or Russia, India is still the eye in BRICS, the league or union of a few countries that are trying to replace the US dollar or the power of the US currency. I think we should, part of the deal should be to obviously improve our are trading with India and other Asian countries to counter China's influence. But we should also like have some talk about BRICS to, not allow India to team up with China and Russia, because they're quote unquote allies with the US because they don't like China, but they're also allies with China because they don't really have the best relationships with the US either. I believe we should just get something done on India being in BRICS. They should either leave BRICS, or I don't know, something should happen. And bad news for India: the day after Vice President Vance's visit, there was a terrorist attack which killed 20 people. And I believe that same day, or a few hours later, the suspected terrorists are allegedly from Pakistan. And for those of you who don't know, India and Pakistan don't have the best of relations. Pakistan divided from India really just because of religious reasons. They're Muslim, and India is Hindu. Yeah, this was really after they declared independence from Great Britain in the 1900s. But yeah, they after they declared independence, Pakistan decided to split off from India. This is quite interesting because in conflicts that we see, Israel versus Hamas, and Israel versus Iran indirectly, these countries don't have nuclear weapons. Or even between Russia and Ukraine, Russia has nuclear weapons but Ukraine doesn't. But between India and Pakistan, they actually both have nuclear weapons. Not the biggest arsenals, not the best arsenals, but they still have nuclear weapons, and that's still a threat. Not to disregard the death of those 20 people, but I don't think that a nuclear war is going to start because of a terrorist. The Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda were quite recently in a war, actually. They achieved peace a few days ago. Last week, they achieved peace with Marco Rubio as the middleman between the two countries. It wasn't a major war, nothing influential. Most people probably didn't know about it. I didn't know about it until quite recently. But yeah, nothing too influential. But yeah, we should celebrate the peace between these two countries. Okay, now on to a bigger topic. Trump and Zelensky met at the Vatican before the Pope's funeral. Pretty sure you've probably all seen this photo by now. But yeah, and then a few days later, Putin confirmed that North Korea had sent troops to aid Russia in fighting, which is technically an escalation of this conflict, a further escalation, which is interesting because a few days ago, Putin decided to offer a ceasefire from May 8th to May 10th. And this is one of two things. He either wants to keep Trump at the table for negotiations and show that some progress is indeed being made, or Putin could just be charging up a great, maybe a final push into Ukraine to maybe take Kiev, or get some more leverage against Ukraine, because they're both very demanding in what they want for peace. And let's be honest, I think everybody knows that Putin has way more leverage than Zelensky does, considering he's kind of winning the war. Not very, it's not an absolute destruction of Ukraine, but he's making some steady progress into Ukraine. And They're both, I think, demanding too much. Neither of them is willing to really surrender some land or for the sake of peace. But yeah, they're both quite demanding, which is not really good, not really what you want to see. And even though they're trying to keep Trump at the negotiating table, Putin attacked the capital of Ukraine a few days ago with a missile attack. I believe it killed several people. And I mean, again, it's not very helpful to the peace deal. They should like have a ceasefire. Like I think that Putin's offer of a ceasefire should be accepted by Ukraine, at least for those 2 days. But in my opinion, I think that they do want to end the war, but Putin wants some more leverage so he can demand more against Ukraine, and I don't know what Ukraine is trying to do. I don't know if they're trying to like. I just don't know what they're trying to do. They should just. They should really just be running towards peace because they don't have much left. Europe has started to aid them with money, military resources, but yeah, that Europe's aid against American aid, that it's not even close. They really need us to keep fighting this war and have some chance of making progress. Okay, now on to the biggest topic of today's video. The Canadian elections were held. It was essentially just Mark Carney against Pierre Poilievre. Poilievre, I don't know. It's French. But yeah, they were. Of course, there were more candidates, but just like in the U.S., there's only really last election cycle was really only Trump v. Harris. Nobody's gonna remember the third party or the fourth party or fifth party or sixth party. But yeah, they were held. Last time I checked, Carney won a liberal minority of 166. The amount needed for a majority is 172, so pretty close. They're like 6 seats off form a majority, but they could easily form a coalition with the NDP, which won 9 seats, or some other liberal party to pass legislation effectively, because they just want to block out the conservatives, kind of like the firewall in Germany, where the liberal parties join together to avoid the conservatives from winning. Yeah, other than those two, the Bloc Party, I'm not actually sure like what they represent. I'm pretty sure that they are left wing. I'm not sure like what they're all about, and I believe all the seats that they won, they're all just based in Ontario. It's very interesting party. I really don't know what they stand for or like what they want to do, but in the Canadian debate I watched a few days ago, they were all essentially teaming up against Carney. Even Jagmeet Singh, who is the NDP leader, the New Democratic Party. They're essentially just they're pretty socialist, but you need to keep in mind that Canada as a whole, their politics are more liberal. Like Trump in Canada, there's no chance he would get elected. He would be considered like far right, like very far right, and Kamala would be like left leaning, not like far left. She wouldn't be that far left. But yeah, they're more they're closer to Europe and like what their center would be considered than the U.S. And the Green Party has 1 seat. Congrats. I don't know. But yeah, this is the 4th consecutive victory for the Liberal Party. The other 3 victories were Justin Trudeau. So he was Prime Minister for more than a decade, which is they don't have term limits over there. So he had a pretty long rule until he dropped out this year. But yeah, when you dropped out, Mark Carney became the new leader of the party. He was the economic advisor to Trudeau. I mean, Canada right now is terrible. Their economy is bad, and the their energy, and they're losing a ton of things to the U.S. and investment, and they all just want to fight the U.S. in a trade war, which makes no sense. Like China, Russia, and India, like some major countries, if they really wanted to fight the U.S. in a trade war, they could. I believe that the U.S. would still win, but they'd at least have some, like, a fighting chance, and they'd last more than a month, probably, as we've seen with China. But yeah, they all want to fight the U.S. in a trade war because they don't want to join the U.S. They all want their country to remain as one, although that might not actually happen. Their country might not remain as one due to the Liberal victory. Some of the more conservative-leaning provinces are considering leaving Canada to join the U.S. because they're just tired of the Liberal leadership. And Carney might negotiate with these more conservative provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. The leading candidate to succeed, the leading candidate to succeed, the leading candidate to leave Canada would be Alberta. Their premier, which is basically a governor in Canada, but they just have like way more power than a governor does here. Their premier, Danielle Smith, is considering leaving Canada seriously. They've been talking about this for like eventually since Trump came into office. At first they were like, yeah, no, there's no chance we're joining the U.S. or nothing like that. And then, sometime later, like a month later, they're like, we'll see. We don't know. We're thinking about it. And then, after the Liberal Party victory, they are now considering leaving Canada to join the U.S. or leave Canada and remain as an independent country, which would be an interesting option. I believe the U.S. would take them as a state, probably a territory. And I'm sorry for whoever has to place that new star on the flag. But they would join the U.S. and if they were to join the U.S., right? If they were to join the U.S., that would be like that would be a great addition to the U.S. They have tons of like natural gas resources, and they're like a very resource-rich province. They're like one of the most wealthy provinces in like resources and natural materials out of like all the provinces. They're the Texas of Canada in terms of oil and other resources. Their addition to the U.S. would be like amazing. It would be almost as good as Greenland. But yeah, now to get in more detail as to why the conservative leader lost. Also, he lost his seat. The Canadian election process is quite different from the American one, but it's also somewhat similar. So suppose that the only branch of government in Canada is the House of Representatives, like in the U.S. Basically, they elect the representatives, and whoever has the most, like, of a party, the total of, like, representatives is 343. But the whoever gets the highest number of, whatever party gets the highest number of representatives in their government will have the leader of that party be the prime minister. So in this case, Mark Carney, the head of the Liberal Party, has 166 seats, last time I checked, in the House of Commons, which is the Canadian Parliament. And he is the Prime Minister of Canada for at least 4 years, or he could call an election earlier. If Alberta does end up leaving Canada, he actually might want to call an election to further strengthen his party's grip on power, because Alberta is the most conservative province in Canada. And if they were to leave, I'm not sure if their ridings, which are like essentially districts, I'm not sure if they would remain the same. If they would remain the same, like in terms of numbers, I believe that the more liberal parts of Canada would get more seats, and that would strengthen their party's grip to probably a liberal majority. And once they have a majority, they don't need help from other parties. There's no need to form coalitions to pass legislation, because they can just you really just need to get more than half of the votes to pass legislation. And if they were to get more seats, 6 more seats, they would be able to effectively pass legislation without the help of any other party. But the leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, lost his seat in the election, which means that he can no longer be the leader of the Conservative Party, although there's a technicality in which he actually can remain the leader of the Conservative Party, but he would have to run for like another seat of the as he would have to run for a seat in his party to essentially remain the leader. But until further elections or until further notice, he would lose his position as leader of the Conservative Party. Okay, and on to the last, like, it's really just a mention of a small thing that happened a few days ago. Quite ironic. So President Trump decided to get the mugshots of all the illegal aliens that have been arrested and put them in the lawn of the White House, specifically where all the reporters have to get their like little spots, their little tents to like report the whatever they need to report. So every time that somebody has to give coverage from the White House, the lawn signs will appear in their broadcasts, whether it's Fox News, CNN, or MSNBC. And I'm gonna put up the clip here as you're looking at like all these mugshots. There's like tons of heinous crimes that others have committed and have been arrested for. And, these aren't like light crimes. These aren't, stealing candy from a store. These are like abuse of children, domestic abuse, murder, some pretty serious crimes. These people aren't coming into the country to work. Like, I guess, like, I get that some of them are economic migrants, but like, the liberal point is that, we should take in all migrants. And, they just want like all of the illegal aliens in the country to get more votes, because they kill their own babies, which means that they are eventually going to just die out. So in 50 years, there might not be a Democrat Party, or at least not one relevant enough to compete in American national politics. Or at least not a Democrat Party or at least there won't be a Democrat Party that's composed of actual American citizens who now require IDs to vote. And so tomorrow I'll upload another video, tomorrow or Thursday. I'm not gonna say a date yet, but I've already got the presidential rankings ready. I just gotta record it and edit. So I've got like all the info and information. I've got like all the info and things I'm gonna say pretty much ready. But yeah, those should be coming out in a few days. Keep in mind there are 45 presidents, so it's taking a while. But yeah, remember to subscribe, hit the bell, and like and share to anyone who might be interested in politics, and especially share to anybody who might not be interested in politics, because these are issues that people need to know about, and I'm not just covering irrelevant stuff. These are things that affect everybody everywhere. The government. So yeah, here's a little cliffhanger for the next video, and you can just go research this if you really can't wait. But the Senator Josh Hawley introduced legislation called the Pelosi Act, and that's the cliffhanger. So watch the next episode to see what that's all about. Check me out on Take 47 Podcasts on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok.